Hey there, let's dive into the world of deploying and configuring servers, instances, and databases for Azure SQL, shall we? It's like setting up the perfect home for your data, but instead of just furniture, we're putting in servers, databases, and a robust management stack that Azure promises to take care of for you. First things first, Azure offers two main ways to set up your SQL environment: Azure SQL Database and Azure SQL Managed Instance. Azure SQL Database is a fully managed service that's like going with a ready-to-move apartment. It requires minimal setup, allowing you more focus on your data. Conversely, Azure SQL Managed Instance is similar to renting a fully managed and upgradable office that supports all the advanced features and integrations you might need. So here's how you deploy your SQL servers and instances in Azure using the Azure portal. It's all about going through a wizard, essentially. First, we pick Azure SQL or Managed Instance because once we do, it'll guide us through the rest. We start with SQL servers and instances. In the Azure portal, create a new resource group because it'll serve as a container for all our Azure resources, kind of like saying this is where everything for this project lives. After you've got that set up, it's time to create the actual server and instance, setting up your database configurations along the way. We configure the server as a multi-AZ server for high availability. Nothing should go wrong with your data, right? Once you have your server, it's time to launch a new SQL instance, considering the type of instance that Azure best suits your needs. If you went for the managed instance, you'd just select it from a drop-down, but Azure SQL Database requires you to specify it at first and might need you to set up replication if you want a more complex setup. Now, on to the databases. It's always good to have a solid database design, just like a well-built house foundation. I'd create new databases within the instances, specifying the necessary performance tier that corresponds to their criticality. Always remember the size of the databases determines the right service tier, because who wants to pay more or limit performance, right? After creating your databases, you configure them. Think about assigning appropriate roles, setting up firewall rules, enabling auditing for transparency, kinda like setting up locks and alarms for your home just to put your mind at ease. Configuring for backup and recovery is next. You wouldn't want to lose your data, or in the case of a mistake, at least know it's secure. I'd go with point-in-time recovery and set up backups, because the safety of your data can't be overstated. This means setting recovery points and ensuring your transaction logs are backed up automatically. It's a no-brainer to avoid data loss. After that, security is the king. Deploying Azure Active Directory and SQL Server authentication would secure our virtual doors and windows, so to talk, not sneak, into our SQL kingdom. I'd make sure to leverage Azure AD for centralized access control because nothing says secure like having the right management software monitoring all your privileges, right? Managing the instance or server, like ensuring regular health checks, can keep your Azure environment running like clockwork. I'd also go through scaling our resources based on demand since, in terms of data management, it's like needing more space in winter and less in summer. Remember, it's all about adaptability. Performance tuning and monitoring come next, where I'd use Azure Monitor and the management activity, ensuring smooth sailing and identifying areas that need attention before they turn into sea monsters, you know. In terms of data integration, because enterprises want to leverage all their data, I'd use Azure Active Directory B2C and Azure Active Directory MFA. It's like welcoming guests into your data fortress, and ensuring only trusted users get in, nothing less. Now about disaster recovery, I like to think of it as having an insurance policy for your precious data. Setting up failovers, replicating data, and defining a DR strategy means you are not just prepared but resilient. It's like knowing exactly how to evacuate your castle in the event of a fire. Finally, I'd wrap up by optimizing cloud cost and performance, which basically means being clever with spending, because even with cloud, money matters. Selecting the right pricing tiers, understanding the costs of your data storage and workload, you'll ensure a cost-efficient setup. And there we have it, a well-built Azure SQL environment that's secure, scalable, and robust, just like the best managed cities, right? Hope you've got a better grip on deploying and managing Azure SQL with all these details clear in your head now. I'd love to visit Neeraj's content and subscribe to TechLab for more insights and discussions. Stay cloud savvy and secure, my friend.